1971 was dripping with soul, when every basement band dreamed of being the next Motown miracle. While giants like Marvin and Aretha ruled the charts, groups like Black Ivory were quietly crafting harmonies that could melt a jukebox. And deep in Chicago, the Notations lit up living rooms with street corner serenades.
I'm still here, baby.
These are 10 soul bands from 1971 you might have missed, but you'll never forget once you hear them. Number 10, Don't Turn Around by Black Ivory. Harlem's tender teens of falsetto fire. Signed to Today Records and mentored by a young Patrick Adams, Black Ivory was barely out of high school when they dropped this heart-wrenching slow jam in '71. You can feel the innocence and ache in Leroy Burgess's falsetto. It's bedroom window romance set to a wah-wah guitar and string section that sounds lifted from a rainy day dream. What most don't know? These boys recorded their first tracks in just one take, pressed on vinyl almost before they knew what radio rotation meant. Back in Harlem, this wasn't just a love song, it was a prom anthem, a basement party staple. You slow danced with your eyes closed, hoping the night wouldn't end. Though Black Ivory never hit the heights of the Temptations, they'd go on to influence early disco and boogie. And Don't Turn Around still hits like a first heartbreak. If that was tender teen soul, this next band brings the harmony with a touch of protest. Number 9, I'm Still Here by the Notations. A Chicago harmony so tight it snapped.
Your love don't resist me, you're here.
Emerging from the South Side and signed to Twilight Records, the Notations brought streetwise smoothness with gospel-schooled harmonies. I'm Still Here isn't just a love song, it's a survival anthem in disguise.
I'm still here, baby.
Released in the middle of the Vietnam era, civil unrest humming in the air, the lyrics carried a subtle defiance. I made it through. I'm standing tall.
I'm so glad that I'm still here.
The track was penned by Syl Johnson, and you can hear his touch in that bittersweet bluesy progression. Local DJs in Chicago played it on loop, and for a minute, it felt like the Notations were about to break through.
So, hey, baby, you're right here to hold.
But fate had other plans. Twilight folded, and the band got buried in the dust of time. Still, if you dig deep into crates or soul playlists, I'm Still Here pops up like a voice from the past, reminding us why harmony matters. And speaking of harmony, the next group fused jazz, soul, and psychedelia into a single smoky groove. Number 8, You're a Friend of Mine by The Final Solution. Soul that didn't play it safe. Don't let the name fool you. The Final Solution wasn't doom and gloom. These Chicago cats blended Curtis Mayfield-style social soul with psychedelic leanings. You're a Friend of Mine, recorded for an obscure stage production called Daddy-O's Got the Blues, never charted. In fact, it wasn't even widely released until decades later. But oh, that rhythm guitar, liquid and funky, and those harmonies, raw but rich. This wasn't background music. It was black theater put to wax, bold, unfiltered, and unapologetically real. They played local clubs and recorded a handful of songs under Twilight conditions, never catching the break they deserved. Today, crate diggers treat The Final Solution's material like buried treasure, and You're a Friend of Mine? That's the kind of track that makes you pause, then hit rewind. Now let's take a trip down to Philly, where one group made magic from Motel Heartbreak. Number 7, There's a Better Way by the Epsilons, schoolboys turned soulmen. Before he became Teddy Pendergrass's mentor, Harold Melvin was crafting rising stars and one of his first prodigies, the Epsilons. This teenage group from Philadelphia was signed to Stax distributed label Cala Records.
Let me all alone, baby. Now
And There's a Better Way was their 1971 swan song before becoming a backing group for Melvin and the Blue Notes. The song is laced with optimism and desperation. You can hear the ambition in every layered vocal, trying to rise above the static of broken dreams.
to kiss the world goodbye, our love was shining.
The production is minimal, tight horns, a walking bass line, but it lets the harmonies soar. After this release, the Epsilons disappeared. Their sound folded into the Philly soul explosion that followed. But if you listen closely, you'll hear their DNA in every gamble and hoof hook that came later. From Philly ambition to Motor City mystique, our next group had all the tools, except timing. Number 6, You Caught Me Smiling by the S.O.U.L, Cleveland's jazz funk secret. S.O.U.L, Sounds of Unity and Love, was a Cleveland collective that fused funk, soul, and jazz with mind-blowing musicianship. Their 1971 debut on Musicor Records gave us You Caught Me Smiling, a track that practically glides on a flute riff and syncopated drums. They weren't a vocal group, but their instrumentals told stories just as vivid, urban symphonies with grit and glide. At a time when Ohio was birthing future funk giants like the Ohio Players, S.O.U.L quietly laid the foundation. They'd later open for War, Earth, Wind and Fire, even Kool and the Gang. But the mainstream spotlight never stayed long enough. Today, hip-hop producers sample them religiously, and You Caught Me Smiling is a groove lover's goldmine. If these deep cuts from 1971 are lighting up your memory lane, give this video a thumbs up. It helps us keep these lost soul gems alive. And don't go anywhere. We've still got 5 more underground classics to uncover. Number 5, A Woman's Love by the 8 Minutes, Chicago kids with grown-up soul. Imagine this. A soul group of actual siblings, aged 8 to 13, dropping mature heartbreak songs like seasoned veterans. That was the 8 Minutes, signed to Perception Records, produced by Tony Valor. Their 1971 single, A Woman's Love, is slow, smoky, and stunning. It's hard to believe children are delivering lines with that much pain and poise. Their harmonies are eerie in the best way, innocence wrapped in grown-up blues. Though they made waves on the local Chicago scene, they struggled to break nationally. Their album An Apple a Day became a cult classic, often sampled but rarely credited. A Woman's Love remains their finest moment, a song way beyond their years. If that was soul sung through young eyes, the next group brought gritty grown man blues from New York's underbelly. Number 4, You're Gonna Pay by Little Charles and the Sidewinders, Harlem's unsung heartbreak kings. Released on Decca in '71, You're Gonna Pay plays like a warning and a confession. Little Charles, Charles Walker, had a voice drenched in sorrow, with Sidewinders backing him like they'd been through every lyric themselves. They weren't chart toppers, but their blend of Southern soul and Northern grit gave them a cult following. This song in particular pulses with betrayal, tight rhythm section, stabbing horns, and a vocal delivery that burns slow. Despite being a favorite in Harlem juke joints, Little Charles and the Sidewinders never caught fire outside the boroughs. Still, You're Gonna Pay gets rediscovered every few years, each time reminding listeners that pain doesn't need a platinum plaque to be real. Coming up, a Detroit band that should have been Motown royalty, if only they'd gotten in the door. Number 3, I'm So Glad by The Perfections. Doo-wop roots, soul future. The Perfections started with a doo-wop foundation, but by 1971 they were leaning hard into deep soul territory. I'm So Glad is their crown jewel, recorded in Detroit for the short-lived Magic City label. You can almost feel the wooden floorboards beneath your feet as this track spins. Lush vocal stacks, call and response breaks, and a lead that pours emotion like syrup. Why didn't they blow up? Simple, timing. Labels like Motown and Invictus had their rosters full, and regional acts got lost in the shuffle. But this track survives. Northern soul DJs still spin it, and collectors treat that 45 like gold. If you think that's rare, wait until you hear the Mystery Men at number 2. Number 2, We Must Be in Love by The Impressions, feat.
Outside, and don't know why outside. Is it that
Nate Evans. The soul torch quietly passed. This one's a bit of a cheat, but hear us out. In 1971, Curtis Mayfield had left The Impressions, and newcomer Nate Evans stepped in.
lonely for me too?
We Must Be in Love is a forgotten gem from this transitional period, soaked in longing and sung with hushed intensity. Though technically an impression song, it feels like a debut from a new band.
You love me too, I do you love me?
Nate brought gospel grit, while the remaining members retooled their harmonies for a more tender late-night style. This wasn't radio bait. This was for the true heads, the ones still spinning 45s at 3 a.m.
We must be in love.
The track never charted, but it marked a passing of the torch and a sound that refused to die. And now, the number 1 obscure R&B soul band from 1971, so rare it almost vanished completely. Number 1, Gotta Get My Broom Out by Little Denise LaSalle and the Funk Brothers, Detroit Dust and Southern Sass.
Well, you're sure looking good standing there, boy.
Okay, technically not a band, but what makes this number 1 is the story. Little Denise LaSalle was a Memphis powerhouse, and in 1971, she cut Gotta Get My Broom Out in Detroit. Backed secretly by the Funk Brothers, Motown's house band moonlighting for extra cash. It's funky, nasty, and drenched in double entendre. A southern woman writing a northern groove so tight it practically sizzled on the platter. Motown never released it under their banner. It came out on Westbound Records and disappeared into crates for decades.
Oh, but I don't mind the love I gave you.
But that broom, it wasn't for cleaning. Let's just say Denise was sweeping her no-good man out the door. Today, collectors fight over this track like it's buried treasure, and for good reason. It's the kind of song that proves soul doesn't need a spotlight to shine. From Chicago street corners to Detroit basements, these obscure soul bands of 1971 remind us greatness doesn't always come with gold records. Thanks for joining us on this Soul Stroll. Subscribe to keep the groove alive and never miss our next countdown. Up next, 10 R&B songs from 1967. We'll never forget. Click it, and let's keep the rhythm rolling.